Okay, so before the break, we created our routes. So we have 4 routes that are mapped to these 4 view functions. So let's start by making a template for our homepage. So we want to maybe view all of the, like a list of all the polls or all the questions that we have. So to do that, I'm going to start by creating a folder inside of my polls app called templates. Again, it has to be named templates to be recognized. So within templates, I'm going to make an index.html. And in here, I am going to just create a header. And this will say polls. Okay. So I will send over the polls. So let's put an if statement checking if latest question list exists. So if the question list exists in our template, so if we had sent it in with our views, then we want to create a list. So this prevents errors from happening. So if you're trying to access like question list dot, or like the question list question dot ID or something like that, it's not going to show up because you don't have the question list. So it's good to handle errors like this. Okay, so another list. I just close the tab. Okay, so I'm going to create a list, and inside of this list, I'm going to loop through all my questions. So I'm going to have a for loop for question in latest question list. Yeah, so for that, I'm going to end the for loop. End for, and I also forgot to end the if statement block, so I'm just gonna do that quick. And oops, and if. Okay, so within my for loop, I'm going to create a list item, and each of these list items are going to be an A tag, so a link. So this, I want to display the actual question text inside of this A tag. So close that. So inside of here, I want to display question dot question text, because if I look at my models, that is the name that I give it here. So question underscore text. And if you guys remember, this is the way to denote a variable. So this is a variable, we want to use it to just be a string. So I'm creating an A tag that displays the question text, and I'm going to add an href. So where will this link reroute me to? And I'm going to put a string in here. So inside of the string, I can actually add the URL. So I linked to it in the chat earlier. Oops. And just copy it over. Okay, so you can use your URL like this. So where you just specify that it's a URL, you give it the name that we gave it in the urls.py, And then if you have any variables or any like parameters that go into that URL, so like, let's say client here takes an int, you can just put it right afterwards. It's a little easier to use. So I'm gonna do that. Okay. So in here, I'm just gonna say URL, and I'm gonna look at the name for my URL. This is going to be home. Actually, sorry, when I click on a question, I want to get the details, right? So my index page is going to be a list of all my questions. Each question, if I click on the question text, I want it to reroute me to a detail page based on this question. So I'm gonna send in the name of my URL, and that is, yeah, I can put it in single quotes. So this name is detail. And then I'm going to send in the parameter, which my parameter was going to be my ID. So I can just say question dot ID. And that should be it. I'm not sure if I have to put it in. I don't think I have to. Sorry. Okay. So let's see if this works. I'm going to go to our polls. 8,000. Okay, go to my polls. I'm at the home. I did not. What did I not do? I created a template.
You didn't update your views.
Exactly. My view is just returning an HTTP response. Okay, so what do I have to replace this with? I mean,
Render.
Yep. So I'm going to render my my template page. So first I have to put the request. I have to specify my template name. So I have it as index.html. And then I need to send in my data. That's data. Okay, data is going to be a dictionary, and I need to fill it in. So what do I need to grab here? For my homepage, I want to send in a list of questions, the latest question list. So how can I do that?
Questions.objects.all.
So I need to first import my models. So I can do from .models, import, I'm just going to specify question and then choice. Okay, so I'm going to say question.objects.all. This will be my list of questions, right? Do I need to do anything else? So I have my questions. Maybe I need to put it in my data, right? My data dictionary. So I can say data at whatever name I'm expecting here. So it's latest question list. I'm going to put it in here. So data at latest question list is going to equal to my questions, the list of questions that I grabbed from the database. And so I'm going to grab my list, and then I'm going to render the HTML page with that data sent in. Okay, so now if I go here and if I refresh, now I see my list show up. Which is also
go at one more time what you just did there with the data.
Yeah, so I wanted to create data to send in. So I just defined my data to be a dictionary. And this is one of the ways you can insert into a dictionary, right? So I can specify the key. So this is the key for the dictionary, and this is the value of what is going in there. So if I print out my data, let me trigger it again. It's going to be a dictionary with the key latest question list and then an actual list of the questions. So doing this is the same as doing data equals latest question list. And then questions. So okay, so this is equivalent to this. So you can do it however you want. If you're adding multiple key value pairs to the dictionary here, then this might be a little bit easier. So if you're grabbing in your view, you're grabbing different types of data and you want to like add it into the dictionary, this might be a little easier to use. But yeah, you can just set your data to whatever you want. I'm gonna comment this out.
Which in your index file is where you define the latest question list, right?
In this one? Yeah, so we're actually technically defining it in here. And then we're expecting that name in here. So as long as your names match between this and the data that you're sending in, you're good to go. So now it's still working. If I click on this, it reroutes me to poll/1 because that was the index of that. So if I do 3, you're looking at question 3. So the way that route worked is when I clicked on it, it rerouted me to a URL with the name or the alias detail. And this was set over here. So, sorry, here. So that was basically like saying, I want this to be my new URL. So if I didn't want to do it in that syntax, I could also say that this is going to be at /polls. I don't know if I need my first slash, but it needs polls/ my question ID. Question.id. Okay. So this is going to be equivalent to this. So I can either set my URL, I'm gonna uncomment it 1 sec. So I can either use my URL with an alias, or I can specify the exact path of where I want to link. So if I comment this one out and I try this href one, so if I do this, oh, so the problem with this is it added the polls, so I just need to remove the polls from here. Oh, okay, so now, there we go. It rerouted me the same way. So this is just an alternative way to do it. I'm gonna keep this one. Okay, so we are grabbing our latest data. If I wanted, I could order this data by, let's say, publication date. So to do that, I can do question.objects.order by, and I can specify what I want. So hub date. I think it's underscore, yeah. Publication date. So now if I go here to all of my polls, I have what's your favorite color. So this is from the oldest, because if you guys remember, I created the favorite color one first. If I put a minus over here in front of the publication date, it'll reverse the order. So now I'm getting Django first, then meaning of life, and then color. So that's a nifty thing. Just adding the minus will flip the order.
Zainab, can you go to your project URLs real
Mhm.
quick? Okay.
So my app URLs have a polls in the beginning of it. So this space URL, it's going to be actually /polls. So oops. For this one. Should probably put it next to it. And then this one, it's /polls/ question ID.
Cool. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Can you go back to the ordering, when you order that the from statement, that one there, you said they're normally sorted by the way they were entered in the database, or they sorted in ascending order?
They're sorted in ascending order. So if you want descending, you would have to specify that you want it descending.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so now we're getting our routes. We're able to go to a detail page. So let's actually get something else than something other than just you're looking at a question. Let's create another template. New file. I'm gonna call it details.html. Okay. So in this detail, I'm gonna grab, or I'm gonna create a tag. So details about question, and then I'm gonna insert the question ID. So I'm going to assume that I'm gonna send back question ID. Actually, let's build this after we set up our view. So our detail view, this is now being called when we go to polls/3 or polls/ whatever number, right? So since it's getting called, we have access to the question ID. And what we want to do is, what do we want to do actually? Someone tell me for the detail page. Where are we going to get the information on that question?
From the choices object.
From the choices, okay. But specifically, how can we grab the one question specifically?
Filter by
Question
ID.
ID.
Yeah, all of those are valid. So question, we're gonna grab the question from our database. So there's a few ways to get it. You can filter, you can do .get as well. So this is objects. So .get, and then you can specify what you're getting it by. You can also do filter, and you'll get the information. So here I'm just going to use a .get. Okay, .get, and I'm going to specify that I want it to get the information by ID, and I have the question ID coming in as a parameter, so I can just use that question ID. So what this is going to do, it's going to go into my database and it's going to pull the question that has this ID. And what else do I have to do? So I'm going to delete this. It's going to be similar to here. So what do I have to do with this question?
Make it data.
Data. I'm going to just call it question because that is sufficient. And then I'm going to send in the question itself. And then what am I returning here?
Return render request and details HTML and data.
Details.html. And then I'm going to send in as well the data that I just grabbed. So the data is going to be just the question based on that question ID. So now I've done this, I can go into my details page and I can actually grab the information or display the information. So I'm going to have question ID. Let's do the actual question text so we can see which question we're displaying. So question text. Two. And then we're going to make a list for the choices. So question. Do I need to grab the questions from my views? Do I need to actually send it in along with the question information?
No, because when you got the question, I think you used get, it grabs that entire object.
It does. So where's my models? So if I look at my model and how I designed it, so I have a question choice relationship. And oh, I forgot to put the to set the related name, unless I did. We're gonna find out. So because I have a choice has a question, but because I have this foreign key, it automatically creates the connection on this side as well. So here I'm going to have access to something called choices. I don't remember if I had a related name here and I deleted it, but if I didn't specify it, that means I can access it through something called choice set. So the name of the table and then underscore set. So let's see that. Okay, so I'm gonna just create a list for all of my choices. So here I'm gonna loop through choice in question dot choice set dot all. Let's hope that works. And then I'm gonna end my for loop. And in here, I'm just gonna add a list item. And this list item will have choice text. So it's just going to display the text itself. I also need to put this in curly braces because this is a parameter. Okay. Let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. So if I refresh, there we go. So because I did not set an alias, so I did not set, sorry, where is it? Okay. I did not set a related name here. It automatically created one with the name of my table or the name of my model with underscore set. If I had, I could just access it with whatever name I had given it. So if I had named this, if I set a related name choices, then I can say question.choices.all, and that would have done it. So choice set. Questions?
So we're just pulling this, like, we're not doing the whole table. You're only pulling the questions text, and that's one of the variables you have in models there. The question, yeah, question underscore text.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. Was that one of the ones you had in models?
Yes. So question has
Okay.
a question text. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I just couldn't remember where that came from, and I forgot it was in models.
Yeah. So whatever attributes you set here, you're able to access them when you send the data to the front end. Okay, so now that we're displaying it, let's create a form to actually be able to vote on these. So let's put a form. Yeah, let's transform this into a form instead of a list. So I'm gonna create a form. So a form will take an action. And this action is going to be whatever my URL is that will handle this action. So if I look at my urls.py and I want to vote, so I'm going to have to do something like this. So in my actions, I could either say, I think /polls/question ID. Question.id / vote. So that will take me to my views. I could alternatively do the URL example. So I'm just gonna make a comment here. So this is how you can do it here. I am going to use the other syntax. So there we go. URL. I can type. I need to put this in here. Okay. It needs double quotes for some reason. Okay. So URL, I'm going to give it the name of my URL. So I think I just called it vote. I'm going to call it vote here. And then I'm going to also send in the parameter that it needs, which is the question ID. So I'm just going to say question.id. And that should be it for the form. Actually, so if I'm sending in data, if I'm voting, what type of method should this be?
Post.
Yeah, so we would want to have this be a post method because we're wanting to change something in the database and we're sending in some information. Okay, so just a refresher, forms can send HTTP requests via actions. So it has an action, this will trigger an HTTP request to whatever URL you set. So if I have the vote URL, it will invoke this URL here. It will reroute it to views.vote and it will send in the voting on question. We're going to edit this, but that is basically what this does. So it's going to send a post request to the vote method here. Okay. So when we're using forms, we want to set the CSRF token, and the CSRF token just prevents our, it has like data protection. So if we're doing this, just set CSRF token. It automatically added the curly braces. Okay, so inside of this form for each choice in my choices set, I am going to create an input. So I'm going to create an input. Type of input is radio for now, because I want to be able to click and choose. So type radio. The name is going to be choice. The ID. I'm just going to give it an ID, so I can just say choice and append the choice ID maybe. So choice.id. And what else do I need? I need a value. So my value is going to be my choice ID. So the value is what gets sent in with my post request. And the name is going to be the key that we're able to access that value with. So when we vote on an option, it will send in the ID of the choice. So I'm going to make this choice .id. So it's going to send in the ID of the choice with a key called choice with our post method into our vote method here. Okay, I'm just going to add a label. I'm going to copy over the label. Yes. Okay. Just to display the actual choice text. So I'm going to create a label. Oh, I forgot to close my input. Okay. So label, and it's for whatever ID you gave this. So these are attached by the for and the ID. So we're saying that this label is for the input that has ID. I'm just going to call this choice.id because that's what I chose here. Okay, and on this label, I'm just going to display the choice text. I'm ending my for loop, and then I'm going to add a button. So you can create a button. You can also have it type, have it be type input. Type equals submit. And then what am I going to say here? Vote. Okay. So hopefully when we do this, we will see the vote, like you are voting on question blank. So let's look at that. So if I refresh this, I see my radio buttons here. Let's say why not, and I'm going to vote. And it says you're voting on question 3. So can someone walk me through what happens when I click on this, I vote, and how do I get to the next page?
You gotta make a JavaScript file.
Not necessarily. So if I'm using a form action, then this takes care of making an Axios call. So those are two equivalent ways of doing it. Yeah. So I can create this post request without touching a JavaScript file at all. If I wanted to, I could have had a button where on click it goes to another function, and then I can set up some information. So I think here there's an on submit. So all of this would be the same. I can say on submit. I give it the name of the function that's going to handle it in JavaScript, and it'll go to that, and you can handle all the information there. You can handle sending the post request from JavaScript using Axios. So those are two equivalent ways of doing it. And maybe if we have time towards the end, I can show how to do the same thing in JavaScript instead. Okay, so I clicked on this. What happened? I clicked on vote, right? What happens when I click on vote here?
It redirects you to vote based on that line 7.
Line 7. So how does it redirect me? What does this action do?
So the action takes that URL and basically appends it. Well, let's see, because you're at polls, so it'll take you to polls/vote with the question ID in there. Because you're giving it the question ID as well.
Yeah. And how is it going there? What type of thing is it doing? Oops. Why do we need this method?
It's sending information.
Via what?
Post.
post, and what is post related to when we think about post?
Get
The
request.
request.
A request, an HTTP request, exactly. So our form is sending an HTTP request to this URL that we set here with a method post. And the information that we want is going to be based off of what we chose here. And yeah, when we submit, that submits the form with the selection that we had chosen. Which kind of seems like a little bit of magic in here. Okay, so we are voting on our choice. I'm clicking vote, and then it's going to my views.py vote method. Let's actually try to enable the voting. What do we do first? So we have our question ID, and then we have our request. What should we do?
Did we have a votes, like a votes field?
So model,
Yeah.
so the question has the choices, but then we can increment the vote on whatever choice we need.
So we need to access that so we can update it.
Yeah. So we have a question ID, so maybe we can start there. What do I do?
I mean, it's gonna be similar to like the detail, right?
Mhm. Exactly. Question equals question.objects.get. And then ID is going to equal to question ID. So we have this line in multiple places. So if we really wanted to, we can put this into a separate function and then just say, we can call it like get question, and then we can just send in the ID. But now it's not really bothering us. It's only here twice. So okay, so we're grabbing our question. What else do we need to actually make the vote happen?
We need to grab the choice from that question.
Yes. So we have to, so with the voting, this is a post request, so we have to grab the information that was sent in via the post request. So let's say, so what was supposed to be sent in with our post request? So we said our value is going to be sent in, and the key is going to be the name. So what are we sending in? What are we expecting?
It's a dictionary where the key is choice and the value is choice ID.
So I'm going to grab a choice ID, and I'm going to say this is equal to request dot post dot not dot, sorry, at choice. If I'm unsure of what is in here, I kind of forgot the different methods. You can loop through. I don't have the code right now on me, but you can loop through to see what's in the body of this. There is a few ways of accessing the information in here, but this should give us the choice ID. Let's print out the choice ID to make sure that we actually are retrieving it correctly. So if I trigger this again, I'm going to vote. I should get an ID 2. Oh, it gave me ID 7, which is fine because the choices have different IDs. So, okay, so we grabbed an ID for that choice. Okay, so we have our question and we have our choice ID. Let's try grabbing the question from, grabbing the choice that is attached to this question. So I'm gonna do it in a try block. Just in case. Okay, so try, what am I gonna try? I'm gonna grab the selected choice. How can I grab the selected choice from the question that I have using the choice ID? What query do I do, basically?
Could you just question dot get choice ID?
Question dot, so question will not have a field called choice ID.
Would it be the choice
but
set?
Sorry?
Question that choice set.
Yep.
And then the ID inside of that.
Just dot choice set. And then I can say dot get. And then I can specify the ID. So ID equals choice ID. So I'm looking through the choices for my question, because we are at a specific question, and I'm grabbing the choice that matches the choice that we were voting on. So this comes from our post request. So we have our selected choices here. Or select the one selected choice, my bad. Okay, so with the exception here, I can accept a few things. We'll do the exception in a bit. So let's say it works. So here I'm going to just put pass for now. Okay, so let's say we were able to get the selected choice. What do we do?
Increment and then save.
Mm-hmm. So there's try except, and then there's else. You can add else. But actually, I'm just not gonna put that. I'm just gonna put it here. So say it again. Sorry, selected choice.
I think just plus equal 1, right? Like,
Yeah.
Would
So
it be like dot vote?
dot vote, exactly, because our choice has a vote attribute. So selected choice dot vote. And then we can just say plus equals 1. And then what do I
it's votes, yeah, with an S, votes.
Oh, thank you. And then I have to save. So did I misspell it everywhere?
Just line 35 and 40.
Yeah. Okay. So then I can do selected choice dot save, because I grabbed it. I grabbed the choice that I wanted. I increased the vote, and then I'm going to save it to the database to make sure that that reflects in my table. And then I'm going to return a redirect, because this was a post request. It's generally good practice to redirect from the post request that you get. So you don't want to render here. HTTP response redirect. There we go. So down here, I'm going to transform this to an HTTP response redirect. I am going to send in what am I sending in? So the redirect will redirect to a URL. So I want it to go to the results page afterwards. So after I vote, I want it to show me a results page. So this string is just going to be /polls/ let me remember. So for the results, /polls/ question ID /results. So /question ID and then /results. Okay. So this will redirect. Okay. My accept is not doing anything, so I'm gonna hope that it's not doing the wrong thing. And then I'll show you guys what we do here. Okay, so
Did we need the slash pools in
Slash-
the redirect?
So I think we need it. I'm gonna try to see if it works. So if I'm gonna vote on this. Okay, so the reason that we're doing the slash polls is that we defined that every URL in our polls app URLs in these, they will start with a slash polls here. So I'm saying that all of my app URLs are going to start with this. That means if I'm putting URLs in here, I don't have to specify them, but if I'm going to see here, if I'm going to them in the browser, I actually have to put slash polls first because I added that in my project. So, and this is used if you have, like I said before, different apps, and then you can say path, like you can have like an attendance app or something else that will reroute to that specifically. Did that answer your question?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So let me close that. Okay, so we were able to reroute successfully to the results page. We see here, you're looking at the results for question 3. We didn't add a page yet. So Sebastian, you're asking what happens if we don't vote on anything and we just click vote. So we get an error. Multi-value dictionary key error. We did not select a choice, so it's going to be an error on the back end here. So there's an exception that happened basically, and it's a key error. So we can handle a key error here. And we should also handle maybe choice does not exist. So let's say we're trying to grab a choice using an ID, and for some reason the ID does not map to a choice in that question. So we can also grab specifically that one question, that one error. So choice, because you might get either of them or both. So choice dot does not exist. So this is an error type. And so with the exception, if it goes in here, we are going to return a render. So we're gonna send the request, right? So we want to render the page again. So we were coming from the details page, right? To vote. So this is the details, and we wanted to vote. So we'll probably have to re-render this page with an error message. So we can say, we can return the request. We're gonna render our detail.html page. And I'm going to send in some information. So this information, I'm gonna actually just prepare it before I send it in. So data is going to be a dictionary as usual. In here, I'm gonna send in, so I have to make sure to see what does the details page look for first. So it looks for a question. So it looks for a question, so I have to include that. So question, and I have access to it because I have grabbed it based on the ID, right? So I can just send in the question. And then I can also send in an error message. This is a more elegant way of handling all these, handling this type of issue. And in this message, I'm gonna say, you forgot to select choice. Okay. So I built this. I'm gonna send it with my render to the detail page. So if I don't vote properly, I want it to send in this information. So the error message, we're not really doing anything with it yet on the detail page. So let's go back to the detail page and maybe say, if there is an error message. So, and if error message, so if that exists, then we are going to print out the error message. So I'm just going to send in this. There we go. So I'm just going to make a variable here. Sorry, not a variable, a p tag to hold our error message and print it out. So let's test this out. So if I'm at the polls, I vote.
Zainab, you had a typo in your views.
Thank you.
It's details, not detail. Line 40.
Thank you. Okay. See there. Gonna vote again. We have another issue. So poll 3. Oh, okay. So when I'm trying to, when I do this, this should be inside of the try. So I can catch the error. But it's happening before my try block. So it's causing an issue. So basically this is saying that there is nothing called choice. So I want it to be inside of my try block. That way I can go into the exception and create an error message for that. So anything that might break, you would want to put it in your try block. So now if I go back, I'm not going to vote. It says you forgot to select a choice here. I could probably make it red or something. But yeah, so now if I
Hey,
vote.
Zainab, quick question.
Yeah.
So I see you dealing with this issue on the back end. You can also fix it on the front end. Is it good practice to do both or just one?
Yes, it is better practice to do both. Always with error handling and validation and all that, it's better to have multiple layers of protection. Yeah. And the more specific your error messages are, the better, especially if you're trying to develop your program and you, yeah, especially with like big deployed applications, you want to know what happened wrong instead of going and digging through everything and trying to recreate issues. Okay, so I think the voting is good. Any questions about the voting part? No. Okay. All right. So last thing to do is to display the results. So now we're getting this message. We want to send back something better. So our results, it's probably going to be us sending back the question information, right? So we have access to our question ID. What should we do now? So we're at our results page, or we're at our results request. So we're requesting results. What should we send back?
Maybe the question and the votes, number of votes.
Okay. So question, this is going to be the same as this. So question equals, yeah, question.objects.get question based on the question ID. So the choices and the votes are going to be inside of this question object. So I don't really need to do anything else. So I can just render a new page, and this page will do the request, we'll send in the request, and then we're gonna set our template, which was called results HTML. Okay, and then our data. I'm not going to build it outside just because I only have question that I'm sending in. So I'm going to send in question with a key question. Okay, so this will render my results page, which I have not created yet. So I'm going to go into the templates. I'm going to create a new file called results. Okay, and in this page, I'm going to say I'm going to say this is question question ID. Question.id results. And then I'm going to display the question. Question text. Okay. And then what else should I have here?
The choice and the votes for that choice.
So I'm going to probably need a list. Okay, so I need a list, and then I'm going to loop through for every choice in question.choiceset.all. Okay, and then I'm gonna close my for loop and for. There we go. And inside my for loop, I am going to create a list item. So oops. List item choice text, and then I'm gonna put like a dash choice dot votes. So this will give me the number of votes, and then oops, I can also say vote. If you guys remember this, the pluralize one, so choice dot votes. So based on this number, it will pluralize. There's a bunch of different functionality that you can actually do with the Django templates as well. It's pretty cool. I'll send a link to the documentation later. Okay, so for each choice, I'm just creating a list item. Let's look at that. So slash results. There we go. So I voted on this twice. We get to the results page. Let's maybe have a vote again link or button. So I can say, I'll just have it be a link. So href is going to be equal to the URL, and that URL is going to be my detail URL. So I want to go back to the detail page. And I need to send in the question ID. So question.id. Okay. And the display here. What I want to say here is maybe vote again. Okay, so now we have a link that goes back to the previous page pretty much. So if I refresh this, I have a vote again link. If I click it, it goes back to details about question 3. I can choose this one, vote. I can see the votes populate. Awesome. Okay, and I can vote on these. And everything's hooked up, everything works. Questions?
Can you start from the beginning and just go do, no, I'm just kidding. So is there a way to make it where you can see the questions or the results for all 3 questions? Like you can keep going back and forth on one page like that? Can we see that?
What do you mean? The results on like all
So
question votes?
yeah, like there's a final page and it's all the votes for each of the questions.
Yeah, so let's say I want, I'm gonna create a different link that says, view all results. And I can create a new URL that says, don't forget the commas, those are annoying. Okay. So since it's not for a specific question, I'm not gonna really need the ID. I can just say all results. All results. This is going to be handled by views dot all results, I guess. And then I can set a name to all results. Okay, so I have this. I need to create a view. Create it down here. So I'm going to define and all results with request. Doesn't matter what I name it, but I'm going to stay consistent. And then I'm going to return. So if I want all the results, I'm going to probably have to render a page. So that means I need to create one. So I'm going to render the request, and then template name. So I'm going to probably call it all results. .html. And I'm going to send in some data that I have not grabbed yet. So I'm going to just define data here as an empty dictionary. Okay, so I'm going to create a template, which I'm going to call all results.html. And I don't know what I want to display yet, so let me grab the data. So for all the results, I want to grab all of my questions and then probably display all of the choices for them. So in here, I will grab a list of all questions. So it's going to be question dot objects dot all. Okay, so this gives us access to all of our questions. I'm gonna say call this questions list. And then I'm gonna send in questions. Do I really need any more information than just the questions? If I want to display everything?
No, because you could do it in your HTML for the vote, for like
Exactly.
the results.
Exactly. So now in our all results here, I can have, it's better to have an if statement checking for the data that I want to use, but just for speed purposes. Okay, so I'm going to loop through for question in questions. Oops. Question list, I think I named it question. Yeah. Oh, questions list. Okay. Okay, so for each question, I'll probably display the question name. So we'll do a header. Not question name, but question text. Question underscore text. Okay. So I'm gonna, this is gonna be repeated, basically repeated stuff from my results page. So I'm just gonna kind of copy that over. So all I have to do is basically nest this within the looping of the questions. So for my result page, I only had one question that I had access to, but here here I have all the questions in the questions list. So I'm going to loop through each question. I'm going to display the question text, and then I'm going to display all the choices that I have with the votes. So I can say here that this is choices. Actually, I don't really have to. This is fine. Okay. So I think this is it. And now if I go back.
Zainab, just line 52 in your views.py, just misspelled objects.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Objects. There we go. Okay, so now if I refresh my results, I have this view all results link. So if I click on this, I go to the details page, which is not what I wanted to do. Okay, what did I do? In my results, oh, I didn't change my URL. So I created it. I'm going to name it all results. I forgot to add a slash here. Okay. So, oops, I'm going to go back to my to my results page and change this detail to all, was it a hyphen or hold on. Okay. All results. And I don't need to send in a question ID because I'm not expecting it and because I want to view all of them. Okay, so now the link should work. Let's start from the beginning. So we go here, I have this link. We're going to choose a question. I'll vote on one, and then I get the specific votes. And then if I see view all results, I have all my results for all of my questions.
That's awesome. Thank you for running through that like that. That helped me a lot.
Awesome. Other questions?
Yeah, I forgot where, but where'd you get the questions.id?
So
That was somewhere.
we did not create it specifically in our models, but whenever you create a model, it automatically, if you don't specify an ID column, it will automatically create an ID for you. So every single table or model has an ID field. If you don't specify it here, it'll make it on the back end.
Thank you.
Could you show the index at the in the URLs?
The project one or the AP? This one, right?
Yeah. Where did we get that from again?
So here, I just created it up here. So if I wanted to, I can put it in a different file to hold whatever my request will handle. But for right now, because I only had one thing that I wanted to add in there, I added it here. So this just adds a link so we can go to the polls app stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions?
what is all results referencing, like in the, where, for its URL, like in its,
Here. This. It's referencing a view called all results. And then if I go here, I defined it all the way at the bottom. Yeah, and it just grabs all the questions and then sends it into the render right here. Other questions?
Can you explain what is object dot all like a built-in function?
Yeah, so question.objects will give you access to this class's objects. Dot all will return just a list of everything that is in the database for this question table. Question, let's see what other things question has. So it has like the clean method that we talked about yesterday. It has a bunch of stuff that is related to models. So it has a save. Yeah, it has like specific information to check things against the model. But then when you want to access actual objects, you would have to say objects and then dot whatever you want to grab from the objects. So this will allow you to grab instances or grab the data from there. So the dot all, like I said, gives everything. You can aggregate, you can all, I don't know why there's a latest. Maybe that's just like a singular one. I think there's also a dot first. So if you do dot first, this will give you the first object in that list. I'm just gonna call it Q, and I'm just gonna print it out just to see what it does. So print Q. And I'm gonna trigger this by refreshing that. I scroll down. That is the question. So my first question in that list is, what is your favorite color? Yeah, there's a bunch of built-in methods for models, and they are all on the Django website.
I got another question. Does did we have to add the questions through the admin page there, or could you have done it through command line?
I could have done it through the command line for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to demonstrate it?
If you want, but you don't have to. If you're probably looking something up.
I can do the shell. So the shell interpreter will allow me to make the like Python requests, or to write Python code and have it be working against the database like this. I actually don't know if I can. Let's try inserting from the PSQL shell. Let's do that. Did you mean this shell or did you mean the other shell?
No, exactly this. Yeah, this is
Okay. Yeah, let's test it out. I've always been too afraid to try. Okay, so does anyone remember the syntax of inserting?
You just use create.
Wait, the create for here?
Insert into table name.
I wish we can just say like create this and then it's done. So insert into the name of the table is, oops, polls app question.
And then I think it's values.
Values, I have to set the values. I probably have to send in a new ID. I don't know if that's going to break anything. So let's see if I can specify the columns here. So question underscore text.
If you put the first value as default, that'll be the ID value and it'll automatically.
Oh, cool. So default. And then question text, I'm just gonna, what should I send in? Who are you? Okay, and publication date. I am just gonna copy this because the format is very specific. Let's hope this works. Okay, the insert went through. So if I do the select, there we go. So it got inserted, but question is, can we actually see it in our questions? So let me go back to my main page. I forgot that I closed my server. Run server, go back. There we go. Who are you? And we don't have any choices here because we haven't added any, but yeah. It works.
And that was similar, like a couple of projects ago, we did the it had like the data that we inserted, and that's pretty, you just did it through the command line, like that whole file.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that kind of, I don't know, the admin stuff kind of just seemed, it was like a whole new thing to me, so it threw me off a little bit. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, this is part of it. I've also mentioned fixtures. I can demonstrate this real quick actually. So this is the general way that you do it. So I need to create a fixtures folder, and inside of here I'm going to create one called data.json. So I'm going to put JSON data in it. So this is the format. Model is going to be the app name. So polls underscore app dot, I'm going to add a choice. Primary key, I have to specify it. Actually, let me see how I can do default primary key. Angle fixtures, default primary key. Primary key equals null. Okay, so I can probably say null over here. And then my fields are whatever fields are in my model. So for choice, I have choice text and then votes and question. So I'm going to start with choice text. Votes, I don't have to specify because I have a default in there. All I have to do is specify the question, and the question will be based off of the ID. So I can just say I want it to be attached to question 4. And then I can copy this. Okay. We're inserting into choice again. Okay. And to run it, we're going to use the manage.py again. So manage.py, and we run load data, and we specify the data file name. So I just call it data. Install 2 objects from 1 fixture. So now if we want to check, let's just check in our app because we know that it already has stuff. So who are you? Oh, forgot to run my server. There we go. So it automatically added those choices to the database. So doing these fixtures is sometimes good to just load initial data, or if you don't have your data ready, it's a good way to just kind of have seed data. Yeah, so you can use the admin, portal, you can use pSQL, you can use the Python shell that's given in Django, and you can also use fixtures to load in data. I have a script that I wrote that takes a CSV file and then creates this fixture file based off of that. So that's something you can do if you wanted to load in data and you don't have it in JSON format that has like model PK fields in it. You can just write a script to do that.
What was the command to load it in again?
It's going to be load data, so manage.py and then load data and then the name of the file. So it automatically knows to look for the fixtures.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also another command that is dump data. And if it dumps it, it's just gonna dump it all in here. If I want, I can say dump data into a file. So I'm just gonna do a JSON file. And it dumps it out here at the same level as the manage.py. And this is just all the information that we have. So if you have data in your databases, in your database, and you want to create a fixtures file out of it, dump data will do that for you. So here it created the data stuff with the correct format for a fixture, which is nice. Yeah, so these are all of our questions and polls. I mean, questions and choices. Yeah. Any more questions?
Can you quickly, since you showed the other ways, refresh on how to do the admin super user creation in the console?
Yeah, so the command is, so most of these things that we're doing with Django we're going to go through the manage.py. So Python manage.py. Actually, let me just clear my console so it's easier to see. What did I do? Okay. So Python manage.py. And then the command is create super user. And when you hit enter, it prompts you to fill in information. So if I leave it blank, I'm just going to create a super user with my name. You have to put an email, which you can just take it. And then a password. There we go. It's too short, but I can best bypass the validation. So I can hit yes or Y. And now I've created a super user. So if I go into my admin portal now, after I turn on the server, front server, okay. /admin. Here we have our, oh, I'm already logged in. Let me log out to log in with my new user. Okay, so the name, then password was this. There we go. So now I have another user. You can see your users over here actually after you log in. There's information you can add, or you can also have groups for your app. Yeah, so the users and groups is kind of built into Django. So it helps you do authentication.
And you just, before that, on the admin.py file, you just connect it, correct?
Yes. So to be able to actually see your models, your app models that you create, in your, okay, this is too big now. Okay. In my admin.py, so app folder, admin.py, I had to add this line. So admin.site, so the admin site, I want to register the models that I have created. So I imported the models and then I added them in here. And now I'm able to see them and play around with them and manage them in my portal.
So a follow-up question that I have about this admin thing then is it seems like a lot easier because it's like what we're used to, like using a interface to do stuff like that. Is it just Django that has this, or do other, like, because you remember how you were saying if you didn't do stuff through the command line, you wouldn't get used to it and stuff like that. So should we be forcing ourselves to use the command line, or is it okay to just be using the admin site because all of the ORMs have the admin site functionalities?
You should try forcing yourself, especially since like this is the beginning and you're learning. It is better to force yourself a little bit to use the uncomfortable ways, just to know how to do them and have them become slightly habitual. So later on, you can switch to using what is it called, like user interface stuff. But at least you would know, because sometimes when you're on specific teams, you like GitHub has a user interface that has like a desktop app that you can use. Some companies don't allow you to install anything. Like you can install things, but you're not allowed to install just anything. So some of these tools are not approved by the companies, and so you're then forced to do it the command line way. So might as well know how to do it and be comfortable.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Hey, Zainab, one more time. Can you show the vote views?
Yes. Let me just close all of this stuff. Here we go.
So in here, I guess I'm trying to figure out what like for the choice ID, the request, like where that's coming from.
Because this is coming from our form. So this is coming from the details page, right? We created a form that allows us to actually vote on something. So
Oh yeah, so the name is choice and the value is choice ID. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, well, you just go back to that one more time.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because mine was like acting up because I think I had choice ID in the dot post choice ID. So
Okay, I understand.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Any last questions?
The CSRF token, can you explain exactly what that's doing?
Yeah. It adds a layer of protection to the data that is going to be sent via post request. It's a built-in Django thing, and some people, to get around it, add the CSRF exempt. I know I showed it the other day, but don't do it. Just add the token in the form, because this turns off the protection. It's just it's a built-in token. Cross-site request forgery protection. So it's basically a cookie or a token that gets set in the header of the post request. And then when it's going to our backend here, Django automatically looks for that. It looks to make sure. So if I don't have that in here, if I don't have this CSRF token in here, and I try running I don't think, oh, it is on, okay. Okay, put polls. So if I go here, I try to vote, it's forbidden because Django is going to block that request due to not having a CSRF token. So, sorry?
No, that makes sense. Thank you.
So when we work with React and we want to send a post request to our Django backend, we have to set the CSRF token explicitly, and we'll learn how to do that. Yeah, actually, we'll probably cover it before React when we're doing stuff with JavaScript within here. Awesome. Any other questions?